Hi, this is Steve Rigolosi, and I'm back with another forgotten mystery. Today's book is Gideon's Month by J.J. Marric. Copyright 1958 by Harper and Brothers, and as you can see here, it is a Harper novel of suspense. So many of you probably know that J.J. Marric was one of the many pseudonyms of the extremely prolific John Creasey. And the J.J. Marric Gideon books are police procedurals, right? They are part of that great tradition of that sort of subgenre. And interestingly, this is Gideon's Month is the fourth book in the series. I think there's maybe 17 or 18 of them. And I think the seventh or eighth one, Gideon's Fire, won the Edgar for best mystery of the year. And I actually have other books that were in contention for that prize that year. One of them was this book, Nightmare by Anne Blaisdell, one of the many pseudonyms of Elizabeth Lynington, also known as Del Shannon and Leslie Egan. And another contender that year was Ross MacDonald, the Wycherley woman. But the Edgar went to J.J. Marric. So reading this book really got me thinking a little bit more deeply about what police procedurals are. And I feel like I should have thought about this, maybe 30 years ago, but, it's kind of nice to have new ideas or insights as you read. So I have this not particularly well formulated theory now, so bear with me. But what I'm thinking is that police procedurals are probably what we would call or consider the most realistic of the mystery fiction genre, right? I mean, there's all kinds of other books, cozies and hard-boiled, paranormal, the list goes on and on. And by definition, mysteries are not the most realistic books there are, right? There's a murder or a crime, a sleuth finds the clues, brings the person to justice. It's all very linear. And I think that what gives mysteries their feeling of reality usually is not the plot, right? I think it could be, in some cases, that the author has done a really great job with setting, or the author is writing historically and has done a great job with evoking history, or the author is particularly good with the psychology of people, with what makes them tick, but it's usually not a slice of reality, right? A mystery novel, a genre mystery novel, isn't really a slice of reality. But I think that police procedurals are. They're the closest thing to reality that you can get in police form, because what they do is they're showing the day-to-day goings-on of, a metropolitan police force, right? With J.J. Marric, it is London. With Del Shannon, her Luis Mendoza books, it's L.A. There's another English procedural writer, Maurice Proctor, and his books are set in the fictional city of Grantchester, England, which is a not well-disguised Manchester, England. And so they show you what goes on in these sort of crazy offices where crimes are constantly being called in. The various officers are going out and doing the legwork. That always seems to be a pretty big part of these books. Legwork, procedure, a lot of it that the police officers consider boring and routine, but has to be done because this is the way a lot of criminals are actually caught in reality, by searching databases, looking for previous perps, looking for people who are out on parole who can't stay on the straight and narrow. And, police forces see a great variety of things. I mean, from the really tragic to the really comic. And so, in my opinion, good police procedurals kind of mix and match a lot of that to give you a slice of life. So, what they feel like, and often are these sort of montages, these set pieces where at least 4 or 5 cases are being juggled by the police officers, and sometimes as many as 15, which I think is too many, but that's a different story. So in Gideon's Month, this book juggles about 5 or 6 plots. And before I get into that, I just want to give a little background about Gideon himself for those who have never read the books. So Gideon is George Gideon. He is a commander at Scotland Yard, and he is a great character. He is, and he, as all the books start with the word Gideon's, right? So it's very clear that he is the main character, and he's the glue that holds everything together because he's an excellent manager. He's an excellent manager of people. And you see this pretty much in every book where he looks at his different, police men, occasionally a policewoman, and he will give them their head if he thinks that they're go off on the right track. He gives people opportunities. Sometimes he suspects, that someone will fail, but he thinks, well, this is how people learn. So he's the kind of boss that we all sort of wish that we had, and so few of us ever did. He is a really winning combination of well-liked and respected. He instills just a little bit of fear, that authoritativeness that a really good manager has to have, while also treating his staffers like human beings who have families and lives and who want to progress in their careers. And so you see this pretty much in every book. And even though he is a man with a heart, he's not afraid to be tough when it comes to fighting crime. He wants to get criminals off the street. I mean, that he considers that his job. He does it with heart. And I think it's interesting. I've read, several Gideons before, and I noticed this in previous books, but I really noticed it here in that the book is really a love letter to London, right? It is, one of the world's great cities, and I think Londoners feel about London the way New Yorkers feel about New York, like it's the greatest place on earth, and that really comes through in the narrative, and so that's really nice if you're an Anglophile and you like London. Probably for me, the most interesting relationship in the book is between Gideon, or GG as he's known, George Gideon, and his major domo, Lemaitre. As positive and upfront as Gideon is, Lemaitre just has a little bit something jealous about him, a little something bitchy, a little something pessimistic that he's always kind of keeping under wraps. And he doesn't really let Gideon see this side of himself too much, but it's who he is, and it slips out. And Gideon knows it's there, but just deals with it. In this book, Lemaitre is going through a divorce. Apparently, he was in a very bad marriage, and Gideon cuts him some slack because he knows Lemaitre's marriage has broken up, but that it's the best possible thing for him. And I wish I had known more about that marriage. I wanted to know why it was so bad, but that isn't told to us here. And honestly, I can't remember if there was information about it in previous books. There probably was, but it's gone. I mentioned earlier the interweaving of plots, and what I find that the really great police procedural writers do with their plots, sometimes they have a thematic thing going on among the plots. And I'm a little sad and disturbed to say that the theme that ties together all of the crimes in this book is abuse. So there is spousal abuse, there is elder abuse, and there is child abuse. And I have to tell you, if you're sensitive, the child abuse stuff is really hard to take, because J.J. Marric really hones in on one particular child, a 9-year-old, who's being trained to be a thief by his mother, who is a no-goodnik. And she treats him horribly, and your heart just goes out to him. It can be hard to take for people who are sensitive. I mean, I wouldn't say that this abuse is particularly vicious and violent there on the page. There's not a lot of detail. I don't think that was what Marric wanted to do, but it is there. And what you see is the day-to-day workings of the London police force, led by George Gideon, chasing down leads, following up with snitches and the underworld, their underworld contacts, and bringing a lot of people to justice. But as in reality, there is one crime that does not get solved, where the perpetrator gets away with it. And I think that's part and parcel of that feeling of reality that you get. So I like J.J. Marric. I like John Creasey a lot. I enjoy these books. They're always fast reads. Creasey's a good writer. I don't know that police procedurals are for everyone who likes more of a novel feel of one richly developed narrative story with maybe one subplot, instead of a book that's sort of peppered with a bunch of different crimes that all have to be solved. But it's worth giving these police procedurals a try. I know that their heyday is over. I am friends with a couple of bookstore owners now who do mostly web-based bookstore work, and several of them have told me that back in the day they could not keep police procedurals in stock, that they flew off the shelves. But I guess as readers, that's not what we're demanding from the publishing world anymore. But then again, I don't know that publishers are listening to what people want anyway. That's a different story. So give J.J. Marric a try. See what you think. I'd love to hear any opinions down below in the comments. And I have one more thing to say. And please, devoted readers of the world, do not send a hit squad out to get me after I say this. Sometimes I think that police procedurals are the mystery novels that lend themselves best to television. To be frank, I have no training in the television industry or the movie industry. I know nothing about it. I am trained as an editor and in publishing, so I know a lot about books. So I can't really speak knowledgeably about television. But when I read police procedures, I see how these books would make great TV because of the fast cuts, the intermingling, the action sequences, the dogged perseverance of the characters. In fact, I think there may have been a Gideon series at one point done in the UK, but I've never really looked for it. So maybe I'll use this video as an opportunity to seek that out and see if it did any justice to the J.J. Marric books. So I'll be back with more J.J. Marric and more John Creasey, because I could read nothing but him for the remainder of my life and still not get through all of his books, because he published more than 600. But Yes. So there will be more John Creasey in my future and in your future if you are one of the fools who subscribes to this channel. Okay. And I will have another review for you pretty soon. I'm almost done with another book, and sad to say, I'm not liking it. So the next review will be rather critical. I'll leave you with that bit of suspense. Okay, thank you and have a good night. Bye.